What's going on, everyone? Mitch with SC Weather. Hope y'all been having a great day, great Friday. In this video, we're kind of going to start to talk about a little bit more what we can expect into next week, maybe the week after. The models have been a little bit more favorable for cold weather and maybe a wintry weather potential here on the East Coast and the Southeast. And an interesting pattern looks to maybe set up as we get into the tail end of next week, into early the week after, that may result in a big-time jet stream drop way in the farthern eastern U.S. and really could put potential the areas in the Northeast really in some cold weather and really potentially bring winter weather for areas of the Mid-South and Mid-Atlantic, maybe Southeast. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what I'm seeing. If you haven't subscribed, much appreciated if you do. Twitter, Facebook is here. Very active on Twitter. Probably a little bit more active on Twitter than Facebook. But subscribing is just a way to support me, and it's much appreciated, and I appreciate all y'all listening in. So let's go on and get into this. So this is the National Weather Service, the 8 to 14 day outlook. These are the professionals. They know what they're talking about, and they're talking about it here. Notice how there's a weird, this is a funky look. This isn't your normal look. But 8 to 14 days is the 23rd to the 29th, so pretty much the tail end of this month. Has much of the Northeast a good chance of being below average temperature-wise for this area. And this comes all the way down to Georgia, parts of Tennessee, South Carolina. Almost all of the state of North Carolina has a decent chance of being below average temperature-wise. Climo-wise, one of the most favorable times of the year, pretty much the middle of winter threshold. So that's a good sign. You know, if you got below average temperatures in the coldest part, climo-wise on average of the winter, then you just need some moisture, right? So we look at the 8 to 14 day outlook for moisture. Is there a higher chance than normal for moisture in the same time frame that there's a higher chance for below normal temperatures? Well, there's not necessarily a chance of well above average precipitation, but there's not below average precipitation either in kind of the same areas. Now, in the heart of what it's saying the cold air is going to be, yeah, it's saying below average chances for precipitation, but not very, just a low chance. Everywhere else is kind of maybe above average. Tennessee, parts of South Carolina, North Carolina. So that's one thing to watch. Well, the coolest thing I want to show y'all is the latest GFS, and it shows multiple chances of winter weather, even in the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. It's still in the long range, guys. I do want to stress that. So don't hold its weight in gold here. But it's definitely showing something. So here we go. We're getting into early next week, middle of next week. Not a whole lot going on. And then you get this. The jet stream starts to do something different here. The kind of the flow out here starts to. You're basically getting some kind of a zonal flow, but it's beginning to buckle a little bit this way, southeast. So you get this storm system that kind of starts to develop around that. It pops up. You're showing some light snow moving into parts of Tennessee, Kentucky. Granted, this is next Friday. This is exactly a week from the day. The models have consistently been showing, all the models, some kind of storm system for next Friday. What this does, we are not sure yet. But it has, the GFS has the low pressure kind of tracking and basically the short wave, whatever it may be, staying south. And basically some snow, winter weather potentially breaking out, parts of Tennessee, Kentucky. What will happen when it kind of gets down here? Now, the jet stream's dipping a little bit more down here. So would this kind of short wave just kind of get up here and the moisture just never really interacted with cold enough air? Well, at this time with this storm system, I don't think the cold air is entrenched into the southeast. I think it's cold enough for the mid-Atlantic, Washington, D.C., northern areas of Virginia, Pennsylvania, obviously for winter weather. But the moisture doesn't make it with this. Now, we've seen scenarios with the same system that it does make it. And it turns to a big-time snowstorm, but not lately. So that moves on through. Then you're starting to get into next weekend. You get another system that moves through. Well, that isn't much either. But then you start to get this real southeast, that basically the jet stream, you're getting this big-time ridge developing out west. So it's going to be warmer than average out west once we get into this time frame. And here comes the troughing. basically got a trough dipping right here, but it's really coming out here and dipping like that. I go way over here, like the map continues over here, but basically you got some very, very cold air into the northeast, and you're cold enough now to where you're in the North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, to where if you can get another system in, you have a little bit more cold air in place. So this next system, and this is 258 hours out. This is not next week, but early part of the week after, starting to get into the last week of January. All of a sudden, you have enough cold air in place, and this is a funky track. This is an unheard of track. I was actually reading up on a weather blog that I do. It's called southernweather.com, southernwx.com. It's an awesome site for weather people to check out. A good community of people who really know a lot about weather. But I think there was a storm in the 1920s that took this kind of similar track where a low pressure developed out here, and it tracked southeasternly along the trough, and cold air more in place down here than it is up here. So you get the storm track, and it's just a funky look where it's raining in parts of all Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, but all the way to the coastal areas of North Carolina, it's snowing. So it's just a funky look, and you get that all the way through the run. Actually, after that storm gets through, and to keep in mind, this is very far out, you even have more of a dip in the jet stream and a bigger ridge developing to the west. So you got a lot of cold air to work with in the entire eastern seaboard. So, with the cold air in place, you have another storm that develops right here. Now, this is the very end of the run, but this is like an ice storm that develops. So, a very active run, for sure. Let me tell you something that a lot of people don't know. A lot of times when we have a cold air mass in place, a lot of times we tend to get our winter storms at the end of cold patterns, meaning the cold pattern is on the way out. It loses kind of its grip. It's suppressing power, pushing low pressures south and suppressing it, and they're able to move north just in time when there's enough cold air in place. In a scenario like this would kind of make sense. So I kind of want to show you this because this is going to give you an idea of how weird the trough is digging. Basically, you got this big time ridge that develops that may actually develop over parts of the southeast and give us a little bit of a warmer week for a good chunk of the week next week. But eventually, you get this big time ridge that begins to develop out west, and a big time trough digging out here all the way out into the Atlantic Ocean, which keeps areas in the northeast very cold. And basically, when a trough is digging like this is definitely the opposite of a zonal flow, which is a flat flow. You get low pressures that can form here and just kind of cruise on down like this, and they're digging down here as opposed to digging down here. So it's a different looking look. But when they dig down here along this trough, you got enough cold air right in here to do something. So, and it continues to dig, and then you get a reinforcing massive area of cold air, but this is so far out that it doesn't matter. Now, the European model for the day, the latest one, the last one from 12Z, we're getting into late next week. There's that storm it's showing, but it's not as impressive as winter weather-wise. It shows the storm, but definitely not as impressive. It gets through, we get into the next system. There's another system that forms right here that I think could do something, but it gets almost sheared out or suppressed, but there's enough cold air in place. If it could just get over here, but eventually it just kind of dwindles away and there's nothing there. And then towards the end of the run, there's not a whole lot going on. Now, if we look at the GFS ensembles, it doesn't really reflect that active run we just saw. If you look right here, there's not really anything. Now, in the Triad of North Carolina, that's a solid signal. Virginia, solid signal, and even all the way up in the entire Northeast. That's just not unheard of up here. But if you look in the Southeast, we're not seeing a lot of what reflects what the GFS just shows. So you can't get excited about it yet because the ensembles aren't on board. So we need the ensembles on board, and we need consistent operational GFS and European and all the runs starting to show something for us to get confident that we can say, hey, this is a locked-in pattern that we can expect. But I am liking the last couple of days of model runs. Hopefully we can continue to get this look going into the weekend. I'll have y'all another update tomorrow, but that's all I got for tonight. Y'all have a great and safe Friday evening.